Good morning and welcome to another Partner Focus Day. I'm very pleased to be joined by Tim Baker from Kloo, who you will soon discover have a very, very compelling offer. And Tim's here today from sunny Mumbai. London, Mumbai is international traveller. Tim, would you kindly tell our members and wider social media audience all about Kloo and the ways in which you can make their lives so much easier?
Fantastic. Thank you, Mike. And thanks for having me. Really excited to be working with the Accounts Payable Association. And as you say, coming in from Mumbai, it's 41 degrees here. So I think that's slightly too hot, but we've got a lot of great product teams out here. So Kloo, our focus is on accounts payable automation, and particularly ways in which we can use AI throughout that process to improve the experience and improve the behavior across the accounts payable lifecycle. The core areas that we deliver, or the areas of focus for us, are number one, elimination of manual tasks. So particularly where there's any sort of repeatable or transactional work that can be eliminated, we look to use AI to do that. And I think the real value is that accounts payable teams can then focus their skills on the more sort of strategic work. And then the second one that really comes alongside that is increasing financial controls. Any processes that you can automate and also get more sort of value out of the data that you have enable you to really add to the financial controls across procurement and supply management. And then the third area we really focus on is the user experience. So this is both the experience for the operational finance team, for the accounts payable team, where the elimination of manual tasks is the biggest one because, as I said, they can focus on where their skills are there. But then actually we also look a lot about the business users. So accounts payable is an area where business side interacts a lot with operational finance, whether it's requesting to spend money or approving those requests. So we look a lot about both the interface that they're using, but also the ways in which they can interact with the system. There's lots of interesting sort of applications of generative AI there, and then also being able to interact with the system via email, via whatever other communication channels they use. I'll just introduce at its core, Kloo has 4 primary modules. So we've got a analytics module that takes data from your ERP and from Kloo and provides a lot of actionable kind of dashboards on both the costs that you have, sort of cash flow insights, as well as ways in which you can streamline the process. And then we also have purchasing co-pilots, which is all around streamlining the requisitions and approvals and purchase order flow. Autonomous invoice management, this is really where you can get to the heart of the elimination of manual work, where we use our smart inbox to ingest invoices and credit notes, automatically code them based on sort of AI and machine learning. And then we can also do things like 2-way and 3-way matching automatically. And then we have a payments module. So this is where you can make supplier payments using open banking. We've sort of able to enable open banking for payment runs, which I think is quite an innovative solution. And we also have a virtual cards means of making payment as well, where you can use those virtual cards to manage your SaaS subscriptions, which can be a really effective way if you're currently managing those on a sort of one credit card across a whole business, which is often the case. So yeah, I suppose in summary, we see ourselves as an efficiency layer on an ERP or accounting software that takes businesses often from partial automation to a real sort of complete automation of all of those transactional tasks. And it's a sort of point solution for accounts payable that removes a lot of those tasks.
No, that's fantastic. Thank you for that comprehensive overview. And in speaking before the session, and obviously having a look at your website, there is the extent to which you integrate both for small business users right the way through to enterprise level ERPs is it's just totally comprehensive. There isn't a solution you can't match with the Kloo proposition. But actually, I just wanted to pick up on one of the things that you said there. We've been hearing about artificial intelligence or AI for a number of years in different ways, and people's experience of that will differ hugely whether they're at the start of the journey looking at RPA and various automations, right the way through to what you referred to as generative AI. Now, for me, that's Chat GPT and things like it. But how do you really use generative AI to benefit a business user?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think there's loads of really interesting opportunities. I suppose a lot of people's experience will be asking ChatGPT to maybe write them a poem or something. So I'll give some examples of how it can really be applied to accounts payable. So firstly, I think there's a really interesting application related to fraud detection. I know that's quite a prominent topic across accounts payable. One example, so generative AI can sort of spot patterns in language and obviously produce language from a prompt that you say. And an example of how that can be used in fraud is, for example, you'll be receiving an email from a supplier that has contents in that email and also an attachment, which might be an invoice. What we can do is really use the language in that email, use the domain of the email address, use the language in the invoice, and spot patterns that show that that's different from prior communications you've had with that supplier. So if you were sort of trying to commit fraud, you may send an invoice in, try and be paid, but there would be very likely some sort of anomalies. You wouldn't exactly match prior sort of or the types of communication that supplier has with that customer. And so that's a really interesting one where we can understand the language and use that to identify potential anomalies to a accounts payable team. I think another really interesting application, so we use generative AI to enable a business to query their data via natural language. So often I imagine if you say are a finance team, you might want to know things like, how much do I owe supplier X? Who in the business is slowest to make approvals? These sorts of things are very common questions, but ones that you'd probably have to do quite a lot of work. You might have to ask someone else. You might have to interrogate some spreadsheets. So the way we work is we have lots of standard analytics, which are interesting, but then you can also ask questions of your data in the way that you would do naturally with a person. So in that example, you would type into Kloo, who is very slow at approving invoices in my business? And that would be effectively a query to your data within Kloo, and we would respond in natural language. So you would receive a response to that to say, this employee is taking 20 days to make their approvals. So I think that mechanism of interacting with software using natural language, interacting with your data and your software using natural language is a really, really interesting application of generative AI. And then I'll just do one final one, which is interesting. A very common process in accounts payable is the matching of purchase orders to invoices. It's very simple if a invoice has a purchase order number on. But actually, if that's not the case, the way we use generative AI in that context is we can summarize the contents of that invoice and understand contextually whether it's similar to some of the purchase orders you have, and then identify some proposed matches for you from that. So that's the sort of thing that can speed up the work for an accounts payable team, where they get sort of identified with a much shorter list of potential matches based on the language that's used in those documents.
And of course, AI never sleeps, does it? So it's working while you're not, which is great. That's incredibly powerful. Thank you for taking the time to explain that. One of the big things, obviously, you mentioned dashboards and visibility and the ability to query data. Analytics, the role of many of our members has changed over the last few years. The skills required to be a head of department or an AP manager these days are much different than they were even just a few short years ago. But if you can just speak into the analytics piece and the strategic insight that you can give an AP manager now via the software, that'd be really useful, I think.
Yeah, great. So accounts payable analytics is one of our modules, and we tend to just give this to all of our customers. So it's kind of the entry level module. And we have a couple of versions of it. So number one is, before you've taken anything from Kloo, you can sign up to accounts payable analytics. And what we'll do is you'll, in a few minutes, link that with your accounting software or ERP, and we'll provide some visualizations of your data. And this came out of feedback we heard that a lot of the sort of standard analytics in accounting softwares can be quite limited. And particularly if you want to create your own bespoke sort of reporting, you either have to do that separately in some spreadsheets, or you have to generally pay quite a lot to get some consultants to customize some dashboards for you in the software that you have. So what we do is in a few minutes, we'll integrate with the accounting software, pull data, and be able to provide some dashboards on things like your sort of standard AP balance summaries, how that's changing over time, and sort of age creditors reporting. But then also some more sort of sophisticated reporting on things like supply costs, your payment behavior by supplier, so you can identify which suppliers you're fast and slow to pay, and also some sort of cash flow optimization opportunities, so where your payment behavior might differ from your due dates, and therefore where you might have some opportunities to, as I say, optimize cash flow. And that can happen without using any of the rest of Kloo. And then if you start using Kloo in addition to just visualizations of your ERP data, then we can provide a lot more insight on areas within your process that can be optimized, where there are bottlenecks, where there are particularly things like purchase orders. One of the sort of strongest areas that we've got feedback on is the ability to identify accruals that can be released because a purchase order has had no activity on it, or it's needs closing. So those sort of like quite specific insights there that can make quite a big difference to the outcomes for accounts payable teams.
And it's all about working capital optimization for many of our customers, as well as ensuring that suppliers get paid on time. So Tim, thank you for that. I know we could probably spend another hour or more talking, and I know you're incredibly passionate and your team are very well resourced to support our membership. We thank you for your support this year as a partner. Look forward to seeing you out on the road. I know we're both going to be at Accountex, and look forward to, in fact, I'm just going to pop up our little prompt, the banner. So obviously we've got our new website. Be sure to check out the Kloo partner listing in our directory. Obviously there's comments, sorry, not comments down below, that's other YouTube videos. There's resources coming throughout the day, some additional content, and yeah, any questions, please reach out to Tim and his team. You'll find them in the member hub. And yeah, Tim, thank you ever so much for your time. And yeah, we wish you a very successful 2024.
Thank you very much, Mike. Thank you.